Welcome back to another jam-packed episode of Kikipocalypse, where we fill our years of quarantine with crafting, baking, growing, and making all sorts of amazing and fun stuff until the collapse of our society or you until the great good. But first, the news.
Good morning and welcome to News in the Garden with Cats, where horrible news is more palatable with felines and flowers.
Good evening. Welcome to News in the Garden with Cats, where we try not to ruin your day with horrible news by putting pretty pictures of the garden and adorable pictures of cats to distract you from everything wrong in the world today. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to ruining another day for you. Have a wonderful time.
Oh look, it's Miss Chanterelle in her beautiful and abundant garden. And Charlie is here too. What a wonderful distraction from all the news I'm about to share with you. Let's begin with the shit show in Texas. After the passing of their most recent forced birth legislation, while it limits a woman's bodily autonomy in a way that men will never experience, it turns everyone from hired drivers to healthcare workers into targets for litigious attacks from Joe Schmo in Miami, Florida, with a $10,000 incentive. With the circus of that madness set aside, this 6-week limit law is causing many clinics in the Lone Star State to stop performing this life-saving procedure as they attempt to protect themselves from financial or violent attacks. Ultimately, this will likely result in many more deaths than it will save, as the United States has the highest priced healthcare with some of the worst results, including some of the highest mother and child mortality rates in the world. The FBI is turning out to be the Federal Bureau of Protecting Powerful Men, as it admits that it did little to keep an accused serial sexual predator off of the highest court in the country and allowed another sexual predator to assault an additional 70-plus young girls because they were busy for 14 months. The investigation by the FBI in the lead-up to the confirmation of now Supreme Court Judge Brett I Like Beer Kavanaugh turns out to have been essentially nothing. They didn't interview the accuser, Christine Blasey Ford. They did not interview the accused. They did almost no interviews and passed along almost none of the 4,500 tips that they received through their tip line to White House lawyers, making their investigation essentially worthless. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse stated, quote, "I charge that the tip line was really a tip dump, with all the tips going straight into the dumpster without investigation." In defense of their actions, the FBI claimed that it was conducting a background check rather than a criminal investigation, which meant that the, quote, "authorities, policies, and procedures used to investigate criminal matters did not apply according to their official statement." May I just point out that HR does background checks, not the FB freaking I. The testimony from multiple young women in regards to the FBI's inaction against disgraced USA Gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar was both inspiring and infuriating to listen to. Infuriating because despite all parties who were tasked with protecting children and young athletes were aware but did nothing as Nassar continued to assault more children. Inspiring testimony from Simone Biles, Michaela Maroney, Ali Raisman, and Maggie Nichols told the story of a child predator that was not stopped when he should have been and was allowed to assault at least 260 young athletes, including 6 gold medal winners. Nassar, who pleaded guilty to sexually abusing 10 minors in a Michigan court, in January of 2018 is serving up to 175 years in prison. He is expected to be behind bars for the rest of his life, after which he will burn in hell for an eternity. In conclusion, one accused serial sexual assaulter ended up in prison, the other ended up as a Supreme Court justice. As for the FB, not I, we will see if these two massive and devastating cover-ups will result in changes that will actually protect women and children from sexual predators, or if it will be swallowed up and ignored like all of those 4,500 tips that were just tipped in the bin and forgotten. September 2021 News Quickies. This is the month where #Ballgate became the most talked about scandal in the world for a few days, or at least in the United States and Trinidad. Long story short, vaccines do not make your member shrivel whilst your testes inflate, but it's looking like COVID just might. The Met Gala happened. Most likely the cost of the catering alone would pay your rent for a year. A reminder to our representatives in Washington, D.C., the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill is the compromise. So it's time to help the American people through it, is hopefully the beginning of the end of this pandemic. President Manchin is halting the legislation to please his corporate owners, not to help his constituents in West Virginia. Kirsten Sinema is just a disaster. Conservative Democrats, Representative Scott Peters of California, Kurt Schrader of Oregon, and Kathleen Rice from New York voted down the beneficial drug pricing bill in a key committee vote because pharmaceutical companies don't want to lower their overly inflated prices for Americans because they really like money. But those political donations are made strictly because they love democracy, sources say. Mounted Border Patrol agents were caught using the reins to whip Haitian refugees who were attempting to smuggle food to their families and diapers for their babies. Between natural disasters, U.S. interference in their country's economy and government, and their acute lack of a president, have driven desperate families to that golden shore of America, where they are vilified, beaten, and turned away. Breaking news! Some of the refugees will be sent to Gitmo, where they will be watched after by a private firm. As the eviction moratorium comes to an end, many millions of U.S. citizens will be forced to move out of their homes, possibly into a homeless existence. This opens up wonderful investment opportunities for vulture capitalists, foreign and domestic, to snatch up properties with large cash offers, driving up housing prices and lessening housing availability. But if you would just stop eating so much avocado toast, you too could be a homeowner. The sharp increase of verbal and physical assaults on healthcare, hospitality, and service workers across the U.S. is a pretty harsh turn on those who were lauded as heroes and frontline champions only a few months ago. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Private businesses are free to deny service to those who punch their waitstaff. Please be kind or stay the fuck home. Speaking of healthcare workers, they are burning out in record numbers as ICU beds fill up across the nation. With a rising number of anti-something or other protests growing in number outside of hospitals and clinics, this wave of doctors, nurses, and support staff fleeing the industry looks like it will continue into the foreseeable future. Comedian and Saturday Night Live alum Norm Macdonald passed away after a private 9-year battle with cancer at the age of 61. Former Alternative Facts Secretary and Bowling Green activist had to delete a tweet when she proved she not only doesn't know what's going on in the world, she might not understand how time works. The poles are shrinking whilst the deserts are growing. High temperature records are being broken worldwide this summer, and a hurricane flooded the New York subway system. As we have just entered autumn, the long-term forecasts offer a warmer, wetter winter than last year, with hopes of no ice storms or blizzards. Happy fall, y'all! In international news, the United States military admits that the drone strike on March 29, 2021, that they claim foiled an ISIS-K attack shortly after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, in fact killed a longtime aid worker and his children, the youngest being 2 years old. Drone strikes targeting civilians are illegal according to international law. When asked about the issue during his term, President Obama gave an explanation for the death of such targets. Quote, "It, in effect, counts all military-age men in a strike zone as combatants, according to several administration officials, unless there is explicit intelligence posthumously proving them innocent. Counter-terrorism officials insist this approach is one of simple logic. People in an area of known terrorist activity or found with top Al-Qaeda operatives are probably up to no good. This excuse does not, however, explain this drone bombing, as it was in a residential neighborhood and resulted in the death of 0 enemy combatants and 10 civilians, including an aid worker and his 7 children." Well, that's about all I can take for today. There's so much more, but I'm just tired and I've finished harvesting for the day, so thank you so much for joining us today. That was a lot of horrible in a tiny little garden, so I will leave you with this, our lesson of the day. Never startle a cat who is sniffing your camera. Good night, everyone, and take care. Tomorrow's gotta be better, right?
Thanks so much for checking out my video. I hope you learned something. Have fun in the garden, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Kikipocalypse.
Episode 13.